Good day everyone. So today our topic is lesson 3, which is the goal of the K-12 curriculum. And the presenters are Miss Alvia, Miss Andico, and Miss Acosta. With these lessons, the objective is that you will be able to explain the major goals of the K-12 curriculum, analyze the curricular goals, and identify strategies in order to attain the curricular goals. Introduction. The primary goal of teaching is to ensure that knowledge is passed on to the next generation of humans. It means that knowledge should be passed in generation to generation. That the goals of teaching. It is a reflection of your value as a human. We teach learners the knowledge and skills that they need to function in our society. As we progress, it means that the communicate becomes more complex and requires set of skills. Challenge most teachers of language is facing is how to ensure that communication skills are taught to learners. So, teachers in the early grades are perhaps more burdened with this task, as learners in this level are in the formative years in their lives. In this lesson, we shall look into the goals of language education of the K-12 curriculum and its perception of how competence could be taught. As a language curriculum, the K-12 English curriculum focuses on more than just instilling the capacities to use language to the learners. Beyond teaching the conventions, principles, or skills, it also looks into the needs of the learners of the language. Being a learner-centered curriculum, it aims to create learners with skills in 1. Interpersonal communication. So, interpersonal communication is the process of exchange of informations, ideas, and feelings between two or more people through verbal or nonverbal method. It often includes face-to-face exchange of information in a form of voice, facial expression, body language, and gestures. So the second one is understanding and learning content from other learning areas. It means that content area learning is closely associated with the academic skills and instructional pedagogies needed to succeed with various core academic courses. Each content area has its own tradition, knowledge, base, and pedagogies, including strategies for teaching and learning. Content area learning is typically driven and defined by the unique learning traditions. The last one is academic independence. Academic independence in the classroom means that students take control of the learning and become active participants. This can be challenging for both students and teachers. Fortunately, there are some strategies teachers can use to promote independence. In order to attain this, the curriculum focuses on two major concepts. First is communicative competence. Communicative competence refers to a learner's ability to use language to communicate successfully. Cannell and Swain 1980 defined it as composing competence in four areas: words and rules, appropriacy, cohesion, and coherence. The next one is multiliteracy. Multiliteracy is the concept of understanding information and the design of meaning through the manipulations of individual modes. This being linguistic meaning, visual meaning, audio meaning, and gestural, tactile, and spatial meaning. Learning a language is more than just simply having the knowledge of the language, grammar, syntax, morphology, phonology, and lexicon, among others. Oftentimes, when language teachers are asked what their goal in teaching is, the common response is to impart the aforementioned skills to the learners. This in itself is not wrong. Understanding what makes the language work and how to properly construct utterance is an important step in learning. However, when learners are asked what their goal is in learning a language, one would hear them to say to communicate in that language. This here is perhaps the most important aspect of teaching and learning a language. Learners would want to learn a language in order to communicate to a larger audience in this medium. This competence is called communicative competence. Coined by Dwell Hymes in 1966, this does not only give emphasis to the competence of the learners, in the grammar and rules of the language, but also to the social knowledge of the use of these rules in communication.
So next is communicative competence. What is communicative competence? It is concerned not only with how grammar or lexis is managed, but also with social-cultural rules of appropriate language use. Why communication competence is needed? It is needed in order to understand communication ethics, to develop cultural awareness, and to think critically. Competence involves knowledge, motivation, and skills. Communicative competence was further defined in terms of four components from the work of Canal and Swain in 1980. It is grammatical linguistic competence, social linguistic competence, discourse competence, and lastly, strategic competence, which we'll be tackling in the next slides. So the first one is grammatical or linguistic competence. In order to meaningfully communicate in a particular language, one must be able to understand the rules of the language. Grammatical competence is knowing how to use grammar, syntax, and vocabulary of a language. Linguistic competence asks, what words do I use? How do I put them into phrases or sentence? So the second one is social linguistic competence. As a language speaker, one can understand that it is not enough to simply have the understanding of the grammatical rules and structure of language. Social linguistic competence, it is knowing how to use and respond to language appropriately, given the setting, the topic, and the relationships among the people communicating. Social linguistic competence asks questions like, which words and phrases fit in this setting and this topic? How can I express specific attitude like courtesy, authority, friendliness, respect when I need to? How do I know what attitude another person is expressing? So the third one is discourse competence. Being able to comprehend and produce oral and or written text in various modes of communication, like speaking, listening, and reading, writing, is the focus of discourse competence. Discourse competence is knowing how to interpret the larger context and how to construct stretches of language so that the parts of make up a coherent whole. Discourse competence asks questions like, how are words, phrases, and sentences put together to create conversations, speeches, email, messages, and newspaper articles? Lastly, in the four components is strategic competence. There will be times when the line of communication would break down. This could be caused by a number of factors including distractions, background noises, and interruptions among others. Strategic competence, it is knowing how to recognize and repair communication breakdowns and how to work around gaps in one's knowledge of the language and how to learn more about the language and in the context. Strategic competence asks questions like, how do I know when I've misunderstood or when someone has misunderstood me? What do I say then? How can I express my ideas if I don't know the name of something or the right verb form to use?
So this is the communicative competence theory. So Canale and Swain defined communicative competence as a global competence that subsumed four separate but related competencies, which are the grammatical, social linguistic, and discourse and strategic competence. The term communicative competence refers to both the tacit knowledge of a language. When we say tacit language or tacit knowledge, it refers to the knowledge, skills, and abilities of an individual gains through experience. So, since it's already discussed by Ms. Acosta, I'm going to discuss the next topic, which is the multiliteracy approach. So, language teaching in the K-12 curriculum does not only focus on the development of communicative competencies, but also on the improvement of multiliteracy in the learners. So, multiliteracy is a term coined in the 1990s by the New London Group, referring to an approach to literacy pedagogy. This is in response to the ever-growing paradigm shift of the education encompassing multiple channels of communication and media, and the increasing cultural and linguistic diversity. So, multiliteracy as a scholarly approach focuses on the new literacy that is developing in response to changes in the way people communicate due to new technologies and new shifts in the usage of language within different cultures. So, as shown in the screen, these are the literacy elements, which is talking, listening, viewing, writing, reading, creativity, and using of technology are now included in the elements of literacy. So, talking and listening. Every literacy activity should begin with talking, and while talking, we should listen. So, also, talking is an integral part of all reading and writing activities, right? The next one is viewing. So, it is developed through viewing and discussing pictures and movies. Then the third one is reading. So, reading is a complex and dynamic activity. So, creativity and using technologies, writing. I will not explain it because it is self-explanatory. So, multiliteracy is the concept of understanding, analyzing, or interpreting information that we see through online or the things we watch in the news. So, the literacy elements from commentary on multiliteracy. Multiliteracy approach takes on various modes to implement in the classroom, including linguistic, which is words, speech, or text, audio, sounds, music, spatial placements, buildings, or locations, gesture, which includes movements, tactile, which includes touch and feel, and visual for pictures, videos, or colors. So, multiliteracy is the concept of understanding information and the assign of meaning making or make meaning, through the manipulation of an individual. So, each mode has a different characteristics used for meaning making, communication, and representation of a knowledge and ideas. So, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, but before we surely end, kindly please answer the quiz. So the first part is enumerations. Give 5 literacy elements. The second one is identifications. Give the 2 major concepts. And the last one is enumeration. Give 3 communicative competence. Also, please take a time to create a poster showing the literacy elements. Thank you and have a nice day.